Hello everyone, myself Sanat Kumar Swai, as a professor at Vedang Institute of Technology. Today's class we will be discussing about class is a very interesting class, perception, social perception. Why is it important? And while we are the slides, because why it is important particularly in the organizational sector. So there are a lot of other social perceptions are there, but we'll be discussing particularly on the stereotyping and halo effect. Those are two concepts of social perception. So what exactly is stereotyping? What exactly is halo effect? How it influences the organization? So social perception. First of all, we'll understand what is social perception. Social perception, we have already discussed about perception, what we perceive. So in previous classes, we have discussed about perception in an individual way, what we perceive, and based on our perception, we behave certain way. But in today's class, we will discuss about social perception. So, what are the social perception, particularly stereotyping and halo effect, and uh, how does it play a significant role in organizational behavior? So we'll go through few examples. It will be a bit more easier if we go through few examples, and we will see that how it is impacting the organizational behavior in any kind of organization. So stereotyping. What do you understand by stereotype? This person is a stereotype mentality. What exactly do you uh, it comes into our mind when we talk about stereotyping? Stereotype. Stereotype means our mentality. Okay. Particularly various kinds of attributes, various kinds of traits, various kinds of characteristics, okay, through which we categorize particular individual. Person is this kind of stereotype person. But that is something like a personal. When we are talking about an organizational setting, then what happens particularly that in organization stereotyping can occur based on various kinds of factors, particularly gender, any kind of race, racial features are also there, racial um, various kinds of job title. What is the job title? What is the age? Okay, so these are the few factors in a stereotyping in workplace. So we'll go through some examples, particularly in that. The first one is gender stereotyping. It's a mentality, not me, not you, but in our society, particularly if we talk about the Indian society, we may not go to other societies, but if you are concerned about only on the Indian society, we'll see that we have its peculiar gender stereotyping. So what happened? For instance, let's say there's a tech company and there's a female employee who's working in that tech company. So what happened is that automatically it is a stereotype mentality which comes into our mind that that particular lady, that particular female employee is less competent, maybe in any kinds of work, maybe coding. If that is a tech company, maybe in coding, or maybe in other kinds of IT jobs or IT tasks, compared to her male counterparts. That's a peculiar mentality, gender stereotyping. I'm not saying that everybody has that kind of stereotyping mentality, but in our society, yes, there is gender stereotyping. So what happens in that? What is the negative uh, uh, what are the problems if we have this kind of mentality, and how it is going to affect that. As a result, they may be overlooked for challenging technical assignments or leadership roles regardless of their actual skills and ability. What happens that if we have this kind of gender stereotyping, I've personally, if you say, I've seen a lot of people who have this kind of mentality, this kind of mental thought, that mental stereotype, gender stereotyping, that if that is a lady, if that is a women, then they may not be that much challenging, they may not be that much efficient as compared to their counterpart. So what happens is this kind of mentality, if it arises in any kind of organization, so sometimes those uh, female employees, they may be overlooked, they may not be given a challenging task. Okay, they may not be given challenging roles, they may not be given challenging leadership roles, regardless of their abilities and technical skills. They may be skillful enough, they may have a lot of abilities, they may have a lot of uh, leadership qualities, but in spite of that, that gets overlooked in case of gender stereotyping. That's a very, very dangerous part if you, right, today's society, if you still practice. But most of the cases you will see this kind of gender stereotyping is been not taken into consideration, and particularly the female employees, women employees, they are at par with their male counterparts, working in a lot of challenging roles across the country, across the world. Next, age stereotype. Now, this is a this age stereotyping. Sometimes it's not only uh, uh, concerned in our society. See, this kind of age stereotyping can be seen in most of the societies. What happens is that when we see older employee, older people, what comes into our mind? That is the age stereotyping. That okay, this person may not be able to do this kind of job, as because age is the factor. As an old person, he or she may not be able to do kind of, or maybe if there is a change, because if that particular person is working in any MNCs, which any kind of innovative task, then that person may not be adaptable to changes, or that person may not be tech savvy. Tech savvy means technologically he or she may not be sound. So we may exclude him from certain projects, or as because that person is a older person, we may not give them promotion, despite having a lot of experiences, despite having a lot of expertise on that particular job. So this is also one of the dangerous things. HT automatically judge the older employee based on that. So now what happens? Right. Next is job title stereotyping. What do you mean by job title stereotyping? The employees who are uh, based on certain roles, having specific personality traits, they may be stereotyped. How they may be stereotyped? For example, here if we talk about a salesperson, that particular salesperson, he or she may be extremely extroverted, particularly in the sales. So what happens is that if in case of job title stereotype, what happens is that salesperson might be stereotyped as overly extroverted, leading to introvert. So what happens that the persons who are working in the sales department, right, and they are overly extrovert, what we do, that we undervalue the persons who are not in, or the person who are introverted. They are being misvalued, they are being undervalued, they are being misunderstood. So job title stereotyping is like, particularly in any um, workplace you see, in any kind of organizational setting you see, that we segregate, we have a stereotype mentality based on the job titles, based on the job roles. Sometimes biasness also occurs due to stereotyping. Now, halo effect. What do you mean by halo? What is halo actually? A figure, like a round figure which comes back of the height. Halo. Anyways, so what happens is that every individual have got different types of traits or different types of abilities inherent within them, right? So what happens is that in case of halo effect, when there is a halo effect, so what one positive trait of the individual influences perception of their other traits, like um, it overlaps one certain trait overlaps the other traits and abilities of a particular person. So what happens? This creates two different kinds of misjudgment. This kind of trait, kind of effect creates two biasness, wrong decisions, faulty decisions at the workplace. So if we go through few examples, we can better understand, like physical appearance. Um, well, this happens in every, I believe it happens in 99% of the workplace, that a person or an employee who is physically attractive, he or she may be perceived as more intelligent, more trustworthy, more cooperative, more competent, right, than the employees who are less, regardless of their actual performance, regardless of their actual job, regardless of the way hard work they are putting into the task. So these kinds of uh, I mean physical appearance attributes to biasness. High performer. High performer, if you see any kind of sales related job where there is a target related. So in that case, what happens, like a person who is a high performer and consistently that person is that employee is giving high sales to to the company. So their managers, his or her immediate manager, what happens is that they try to overlook his or her other shortcomings. They try to overlook his or her other flaws. Why? Because they assume that they will excel in all the broad areas. As because that person is a high performer, as because the employee is a consistently delivering exceptional sales, his or her performance is sales performance exceptionally high, then we can assume that he or she must be doing in the other fields. Well, this is absolutely wrong, because that may be flaws. We tend to overlook his flaws. We tend to overlook his issues, his shortcomings, and then the wrong decision. We give a biased decision based on this. Next, education or background. What happens is that there are a lot of employees working in a single work in the organizational setting, and any employee who has a wonderful educational background, okay, so what happens is that uh, um, his or her manager or his immediate authority, they assume that as because this person has got a wonderful experience or wonderful educational background, he or she may be capable to do every kind of work, or he um, possess all the relevant skills or experience. It's absolutely wrong. We cannot presume, we cannot assume that as because that person or that employee has a prestigious education or a work experience, he is capable to do all kind of job, or he is having all kind of relevant skills and experience required for a certain task. Cannot be we cannot be confirm, or we cannot guarantee that that particular employee will perform much better way, as because he is coming from a good background, or as because he has a good educational background or work experience. Leadership characteristic. Now, what do you mean by leadership characteristic? See, for example, any manager or any superior, your line manager or your boss whatsoever. Okay. So what happens is that if that person is a charismatic, he has a charismatic personality. Okay. So what happens is that very smart enough, okay, very good personality. Sometimes what happens if such charismatic managers comes into workplace, the professional setting. So what happens that his or her leadership qualities, his or her leadership abilities are overestimated. We think, we think, or the employees think that yes, as because the manager is very charismatic, then he must be having a very good leadership quality. So we overestimate, okay, leading to a halo effect. He or she, that manager may not be that much effective as we actually think he is. Okay. So that is like, that's a halo effect. Okay. So what happens is that why there is, again, there's a biasness in our thought process. The biasness is in our decision making process. So these are the characteristics. Now, addressing these biases in organization behavior requires awareness and proactive measures. So these are all the biases, um, perception, social perception, and it requires various kinds of awareness and proactive measures. Okay, so we'll be going through few proactive measures. We'll in the few slides. First one is training and education. We have to train, we have to educate not only the employees but ourselves as well. There should be diversified and inclusive training and education so that awareness can be raised to understand these kinds of stereotype and what impact it makes in various kinds of decision making. There has to be a right decision for the company to grow, for the organizational goals to be achieved. So if there is no a faulty back decision, then definitely it is going to hamper the growth and of the organization. So we have to make ourselves as well as the employees aware about these kinds of stereotypes and their harmful effect. Next, objective evaluation criteria. What do you mean by objective evaluation criteria? See, objective evaluation criteria means, particularly if we are talking about various kinds of biases and how we are going to evaluate, though it is going to remain. So, like halo effect will remain. But that effect, that influences of that biases can be minimized. How that can be minimized? By understanding the evaluation criteria, how you are going to evaluate those criteria so that we can minimize those biases effects like halo effect. So this is all about the objective evaluation criteria. Next, Promotion of diversity, very important thing. This diversity, most of the organizations these days are promoting diversity in their workplace. So what happens is that in this case, um, actively promoting diversity in hiring and promotion practices. Most of the organizations, they are actively promoting the hiring and promotion practices to ensure that the individuals are just based on their actual skills and qualification, actual skills and qualification, rather than their stereotypes and superficial traits. They may have stereotypes, various kinds of stereotypes. May have various kinds of traits, superficial traits. But we cannot judge them based on these kinds of attributes, rather than their actual skills, what skills they possess, what qualifications do they possess, and how those qualifications and those skills which they possess is relevant to the work, to the task, to the job role which we require. So, promotion of diversity. So with this, we have come to the come to the conclusion. So you see why we need to understand these kinds of stereotypes and these kinds of halo effect. You see, these kinds of stereotypes does happens in every kind of organization. These kinds of halo effect you see in every kind of organization, in any kind of society, not only in Indian society, but you can see this kind of effects and these kinds of stereotype behavior in different developed countries as well. So we are giving more priority to this kind of stereotype, then that is going to be devastating issue for any kind of organization. So we have to minimize those kinds of stereotypes, have to minimize those halo effect, so that the organizations, they can have more equitable and more inclusive work environment, wherein the all the employees, all the staffs, all the people working in that place opportunity. And so I believe we have gone through all the stereotypes, particularly the important stereotypes. Well, there may be more stereotypes in different organizations. We go through the, because in India, if we talk about Indian society, we see that it is a multicultural society. Can have more stereotypes and more halo effect. We go to different kinds of we talk about the cultural aspects. But we have gone through the important attributes of the stereotypes. What are the effects of organization? Okay, thank you very much. If there is any doubt, just jot down your doubts. More than happy to clear off your doubts.